Welcome to Edge Concepts. My name is Luko. In this tutorial, I'll be showing you how to create this auto drop-down search bar or search box in React.js. And this is going to help you to quickly search, your items. It can be an array of objects or array of strings. So if, for example, I type R, it is displaying all the names that contain this letter R. For example, this one has Graham, R is there. Evan has R there. Then Patricia has R. Dietrich has R. And then Curtis has R. All this. If I type a string here that does not match it with any of those, it displays this no match. If I type something else like N, you can see all the letters N are there. If I type, for example, double N, it's only these three names that contain that in that order. Yeah. So enough of introduction. Let's move to coding. Welcome back. This is a brand new React.js application. It's running on my Chrome browser. I'm also using a Visual Studio Code editor. So this is my app.js. I'll start by clearing everything here so that we start from scratch. I'll also go to app.css and clear all the stylings there. Then I'm going to add the terminal here so that I install Axios, which will help me to fetch the data from the JSON placeholder. So I'll do npm install Axios. As the Axios is installing, I'll create my functional component in my app.js. So I have a ES7 extension which allows me to write React snippets so that I can create the components very fast. So I'll save this. If I go back to the browser, it's reloading. There I have my app. I'll import the CSS file. My Axios has been installed, so the next thing I'll do is to install another library here, which is the React icons. So I'll just do npm install React icons. Then let me go back and start creating the elements. I will need a div that is going to enclose my box, which is the search bar. So I'll give it a class name of search. Then inside the search bar, I'll create a div that is going to enclose my icon and the input. So I'll call that search box. So let me create a class known as search box. Then inside the search box, I'll have an input with the placeholder of search. Sorry about the spelling. Like that. Let me check if the icons React icons library has been installed. So if I navigate to the React icons website, I should be able to search the icons that I want. So when you come to this search section, you'll be presented with a number of icons. I'm just going to use this one, so you just click and it will be copied. So I'll come up here and import FI search from React icons. Then the folder is FI, that. Then I'll come here and pass that component here. So I'll just paste it there like that. If I go back to the browser, I have it there. So what I'm going to do is to minimize this so that I'll have my browser at one point, and I'll also have my editor at the other section. So let me just do this, then expand my browser like that. Let me also close this section. So the next thing I'm going to do is to style what I have created so far. The parent div, I'll give it a class name of app. Save that. So I'll start with the app class. Give it a background color of purple. Then I'll give it a minimum width of 100 view height, and a display of flex so that I should be able to center the children. So to center the children, I'll declare the justification, justify the content. I'll set it to center like that. Then you can see I'll give it a padding top of 30 view height like that. So the next section to style will be the search box. So I'll give it a display of flex. And then flex direction is going to be column. Then I'll also give it a background color of white. That. Then its height, I want the height to fit the content that I have inside my search. So the height, I'll set it to fit content like that. Good. The next section that I want to style will be the search box. So let me copy that. For my search box, I'm also going to give it a display of flex. Then I want to give it a gap, the gap between my elements inside the search box. I'll give it a gap of 8 pixels. Maybe before I proceed, I'd like to increase the font of every element that I have in my application. So to do so, I'll go to the global style sheet, which is the index.css, and I'm going to change this to everything instead of body. Then I'll set the font size to be 18 pixels, and I'll also set the font weight to 700. Like that. Then I'll minimize this, then close the index.css. Then I'll come back to my search box. I'll now style the text. which is the input for the suggestions that I'll want to be displayed below here in the drop down menu. So before I proceed doing that, I like to align my items horizontally. So to be able to do that, I'll just align items at the center, like that, and you can see they have been aligned. Then I'll move to the input. For the input, I'll remove the border, so I'll set it to none. Then I'll remove the outline, set it to none, like that. Then I'll go back to the search box. I'll give it as a border radius. I'll give it a border radius of 8 pixels, and I'll also give it a padding. Let me give it a padding of 8 pixels, sorry. Yeah. So the border radius right now is not showing. Let me make it 16. Then the other thing I'd like to do is to remove the background color from my input. So I'll set the background color to transparent. I'll come and fix this later, the border radius thing. So the next section that I would like to style will be the drop down box that I'm here to create. This is going to lie outside our search box, which is this section here. So I'll just give it a class name of dropdown. I don't have the items to display here yet, so we shall proceed to the JSON placeholder. So I'll just come to my browser and search for JSON placeholder. So it will be this one here. I'm going to leave the link in the description of the video. And the section that I'm interested in is these resources. And then I'm interested in the number of users, this one here. So if I click that, it will give me an array of users, in JSON format. So I'll copy this URL. Then I'll come back to my application. Let me just expand this for now. I'll start fetching the data. So let me have a comment here that says fetching data, like that. Then I'm going to use the use state hook, which is this one here. Then I'll pass a snippet with the help of ES7 extension. Then I'm going to call these users. Sorry. Initially it's going to be empty. And then with the use of use effect hook, whenever my application loads, I should be able to fetch the users and update this users array. So I'll pass the use effect hook. Then I'll also pass the snippet. Make sure to import those at the top the way I've done. So this will run only once my application loads. In the use effect hook, I want to call a function that is going to fetch my users. So I'll call this fetch users. So I'll call that function. I'm here to create that function. So I'll come up here and create that function. Let me just copy this and paste here. It's going to be a synchronous function. So I'll pass a sync here. So it's going to be a synchronous function. Then I'll have a constant here known as a response. And then I'll fetch the data using the get method. So it's going to be Axios. Of course, I'm going to await because this is going to take some time. So Axios.get method. Then inside the get, I'm going to pass the URL. Sorry. Let me go back to the browser. It was this one here. So copy this. And then come back here and paste it there. Let's save it. Let me just expand even my browser. Like that. And then to test out what we get as the response, I'll come down here and console log the user's constant or a variable. Not users but response. Sorry. Let's save that. Let me just increase the size of my terminal so that I'll be able to see if there are any errors down here. Yeah, there is an error, so I need to import Axios. I'll be importing this Axios from Axios. That it's reloading. Let's just give it some time. There we have it. So I'll go to my browser, navigate back to my application and inspect the console. So let me refresh because there were some errors there. So I have an object here which with the different properties, and what we are interested in is this data property here. You can see it's 10. It is an array with 10 objects. So to update our users, I'll come down here and set users to response dot data, because response is an object. Maybe if I console log the response, I mean the users, should be able to see an array of 10 objects. So let me just save that and head back to the browser. Let me clear this and refresh. It is empty because I think it's running before this is running before the actual fetching takes place. But all in all, the users will be updated. So the next thing I'd like to do is to do the filtering so that I'll have an array that is going to represent the filtered users. So I'll come down here and create a comment there known as filter users, and that. Then I'll create an array here with the help of a user state hook. So let me just pass a snippet. I'll call this filtered. Initially it's going to be an empty array, like that. And then I'm also going to create some variable here that is going to represent our input, so that whenever there is a change in the number of characters or any typing that takes place in our input, that variable will be updated. It's going to be a string. So I'm going to use the use state hook because we shall be updating that later. So I'll pass a snippet. Then I'll call these options, or let me just call it search. That you can give it any name that you like. Initially it's going to be empty. Then what I want is when there is any typing that takes place in my input, which is going to be on change event, I'll pass a function here with an event argument. Then I'll be updating my search variable, which is this one here. So I'll set the search, I'll set it to E, which is the event.target .value, like that. Save that. There is a typing error, so I think it's because of my spelling errors here. Let me just introduce the R there. Sorry about that. Then I'm going to have another use effect hook here that is going to depend on the changes that take place on this variable. So the use effect hook, I'll pass a snippet. Then it's going to depend on the search variable. So I'll come here and type search in the dependency array. Then let me just clear this. For now, when there is a change in this, I want to console log the same variable. So I'll just come and console log and the search. Like that. So let me just save that. It's loading. Then we go to the browser and refresh. Right now nothing is console logged, but when I type something there, you can see R, and the R is displayed when I type another R. So we are able to monitor all the changes that take place when we type on our input. Good. So what I want actually to do is now to filter my array, which is going to be users, this users array, so that we are only able to get the array, the objects which have the name, or whose names contain the letters that we are going to type here in that order. So I'll come and set my users to the filtered array. So the array that we are going to filter is going to be users array. So users, of course we are setting the filtered, not users. Sorry for that. Set filtered, because we now want to update this array. Then we shall later display it. So we are going to set the filtered to users.filter. I'll use the filter method. So we shall pass a function here with an argument which is going to represent every object within the array. Then what I want to check is the item. If this item contains the words that I'm typing. So how do we check for that? It's going to be item dot, because item represents a single object. When I go back to the JSON placeholder, you can see it is an array of objects and the name is represented by this name property. So I can make this name to make you understand and remember that. So let me just update this to name. Let me just go back to items. So the item represents a single array and the property of the array is going to be name, like that. So I want to check if the name contains, so I'm going to use the string method known as includes. If it includes, I'll pass what I want to test if it is included. So what I want to be included is the search, which is this one here. If it contains search like that. Now, depending on the values that you're getting from the data that you're trying to filter, sometimes your data may contain strings with capital letters, it may contain numbers, it may contain small letters. So to deal with that, I'll first change the text to small letters. So to be able to do that, I'll use the lowercase method. Then I'll also set the search to lowercase. Sorry. Like that. Of course, it's a method, so I have to call this method like that. Right. Let me try to console log the filter and see if we are able to filter the data. So console.log we are going to log the filtered array like that. So save that. Then I'll come back to the browser and refresh. Right now we have app.js position 33, which is this one here, as an empty array. So if I type something here like R, you can see I have 8 characters. Remember they were 9. If I type another R, there is no name that contains these 2 letters in that order. If I clear that and I try to type something else, let's say I type N, you can see I also have 8. If I type N again, I remain with 3 objects. If we try to inspect these more, you can see that the names have, like this one is Lynn, M-N-E, like that, Dennis. Then we have Glenna. Good. So for now, I'll just close the console. Then I'll clear all the logs. I'll clear this one here. Then I'll come to my drop-down section and display the object names. So I'll use the map method, which is going to be filtered .map. I'll pass a function there which is going to have 2 arguments. The first one is going to be item to represent every object. Then I'll also need the index of each object, which is going to be unique, of course. And then I'll return a div here. Let me just return a div. I'll give it a class name of card, like that. And inside this card, I'll pass a paragraph. And what I'm interested in is the item.name, the name of the item, of course. Then I'll also pass the key here, which is going to be the unique index, of course, like that. Right now, if I come to my application, you can see that those names are displayed there. If I clear one N, it means there are several names with the letter N, like that. So for example, if I want to search for this Lynn, I can type Lynn, like that, and you can see Lynn, it's filtered out. There's no any other user with the name that contains this arrangement of letters. So the next thing I'll do is to just style this. I'll come to my app.css. I'll proceed to the drop down section, copy that. Then I'll want my drop down to have a display of flex. Then flex direction of column. Then I'll give it a gap of 4 pixels. And the padding right left of 8, so padding let me just give it a padding of 8 pixel left and right, and 0 pixel top and bottom, like that. And then I'll concentrate on the card section of the drop down. So that card, what I want for the card is only the hover, so I'll pass that hover here. When the card is hovered, I'll give it a different background color. So I want to set the background to gray. Sorry. Yeah, it's working. So I'll just make it more lighter. With the help of the Visual Studio, should be able to make it lighter. Then I'll also transfer the padding to the cards instead of the drop down, which is the parent of the cards. Like that. I'll need to have the card separately so that I don't have that weird display of characters when I hover, like that. So the next thing that I want to do is to update our search bar so that when I click on any of the suggestions, it will be updated up here. Then we shall later, if you want to filter your items by clicking on a button that is going to depend on the input, you should be able to do that. So to be able to do that, I'll come back to the sections where I have the cards, which is here. And then I create a click event. So on click, I'll have a function. I'll just pass an anonymous function here with a click event. I should be able to access this input. So to be able to access the input, you'll use the useref hook from React. So I'll create a constant here that is going to represent my input element. I'll call this the search ref, like that. And then I'll use the use ref hook here. Make sure you import it at the top. And has imported automatically, has been imported. Then I'll come to my element, which is this one here, the input element, and I'll pass a reference attribute, which is going to point at this search ref here. Let me just copy that, and then come here and pass it there, like that. So I'm now able to manipulate the input. So the next thing we shall do is now to be able to set the writings on our search input. So to do that, we shall take our search ref, which is this one. It's going to be an object. Then we are interested with the .current section, which will allow us to access the value. So we shall access the value. Then we equate this value to what we are setting, which is the suggestion. It's already causing the error, so we shall equate it to the suggestion, which is represented by the name variable. So we shall just equate that to item dot name, of course, because item is an object. Like that. So if I save this, I hope the error is gone. Yeah, the error is gone. Let me just refresh the browser. Then let's search for something. So as we search, and if I click on any of the suggestions here, you can see it has updated up there. If I click a different one, it updates like that. So the next thing that I want to do is that whenever I click on any of these, the drop down will be closed completely. Then also when we type something that is not in the suggestion, instead of closing it, it should notify the user that there is no match. So I think we shall start with that by coming to a section where we are displaying our drop down. So the first thing, I'll only want to display the drop down when I have typed something in my search box. So I'll pass my curly braces there. Then I'll want to depend on the search box typing. So if my search is, of course, if I type something, it means that the length of this string is going to be more than 0. So if the search.length will be greater than 0, and then using the conditional rendering, I'll be able to render this. So let me just copy that. And pass it there. So if I'll not have anything typed there, it will not be displayed. But when I type, you can see it is displayed. Of course, my searching is going to also apply on the spaces. Of course, our names have spaces and they are treated as characters, which is a good thing. Then after searching, I'll also want to notify my user that there is no match when I type something that is not available. For example, $R, there is no name with the $R in that arrangement. So I'll come back and do more conditional rendering here. So in the search box, I'll come and create another variable here that is going to depend on the filtered array. So if filter dot length is greater than 0, then for this case I'll use this. So I'm going to copy what I have here, copy that, then pass it there. In fact, let me just clear everything first, then I'll just return to where I was. Then I'm going to do my conditional rendering here. So if filter.length is greater than 0, I'll display this. But if it's less than 0, I'll display something else. So this is starting from here and it's ending here, so I'll give the other option. So instead of just displaying a negative or displaying nothing, I'll pass a paragraph, that says no match, like that. So filter is not defined. It is filtered array, not filter, like that. But let me refresh the application. Then type R. R is there. Double R is not there, and therefore it displays that. So if I clear back, I have a single R, then that is displayed. Then if I clear everything, our drop down box disappears, like that. Then if I search, click any of those, I want the drop down to disappear. So to make the drop down box to disappear, I'll come to this section, which is the card. Remember, it is the card that I'm clicking. So whenever I click the card, I should be able to make this disappear. To make it drop down disappear, it depends on the length of this filtered array. So what I'm going to do is come to the click section here. Let me just enclose this with the curly brace so that we are able to pass several functionalities here, like that. Then I will want to set my array back to 0. So I'll set the filtered. It's not the filtered. The whole drop-down box depends on the search string. So I'll set the search to an empty string, like that. So I'll go back to the browser and refresh the application. Then I'll type so that I have these options for now. So if I click on that, you can see the drop down disappears. Then you can comfortably, if this is what you've set as your submit button, if you click on that, it should be able to filter your items. I'd also like to mention that the other thing you can do is you can have all the array of maybe, for example, you have a products page, and when you filter, you're given the suggestion of the products with these names, so that if you click on any given name, it should take you to the single product section and display the information of that product. So the options are many. It's not necessarily that you can only filter the array of objects. You can also filter array of strings, so that instead of passing item.name, if you have an array containing names in form of strings, you can just pass item here as your value. Yeah, this video is taking quite some time, and I will wish to stop there. Thank you for your time. If you're new here, please make sure you subscribe, like, and share the video. Thank you.